On the 15th of October, we produced a podcast called Healing from Satanic Ritual Abuse in ISKCON. It was episode number 85 with Dwalamukhi Devidasi, a devotee in the United States. Now, those of you who have been followers of the Hare Krishna Project podcast for almost 3 years or for a long period of time will know and will remember that Dwalamukhi wasn't the only guest to talk about satanic ritual abuse in ISKCON. It was also mentioned during episode number 60 with Palika from Australia. She also talked about her experiences and her knowledge of satanic ritual abuse in ISKCON. After every podcast that we produce at the Hare Krishna Project, when it's uploaded online to Facebook, YouTube, it's broadcast, I then emotionally and literally put it to bed. I don't deal with that podcast again. I get on with preparing for the next podcast or preparing for something else that we're doing here at the Hare Krishna Project. Episode number 85 was quite different, though. Within 24 hours of that podcast going out, I received an email from a friend of mine, a devotee friend of mine in Denmark. And it included, his email contained a short dossier about black magic being practiced in ISKCON. Now, as you can imagine, I freaked out a little bit. I'd never thought about or heard about black magic being practiced in ISKCON. Over the coming days after that podcast, I then spent a number of hours researching black magic in ISKCON. This dossier, this confidential dossier that was sent to me, I sent it confidentially to some other devotees here in the UK and around Europe to ask for their thoughts and their opinions. To my surprise, of the 10, 12 people I emailed it to, at least half responded and said, oh yes, I've heard about black magic in ISKCON. Actually, I've seen black magic in ISKCON. Actually, I've even experienced black magic in ISKCON. The weeks after that podcast were a bit of a roller coaster ride for me in terms of lots of people then just randomly, or you could say everything's Krishna's arrangement, randomly getting in touch with me about black magic in ISKCON and the things that they've seen or heard or experienced. In one of those conversations, I was put in touch with one devotee who has spent the last 20 years researching black magic in ISKCON. This person has made it their PhD thesis, so to speak, not literally, researching the history of black magic in ISKCON and how black magic has become intertwined in some parts of the ISKCON world. After a lot of thought and deliberation, as you can imagine, I have decided that we will produce a podcast about black magic in ISKCON. This will be our second world exclusive. Our first was with Kailasa Chandra Prabhu back in July. He, interestingly or bizarrely to me, had been refused an interview by every other Hare Krishna podcaster in the Hare Krishna world. I was the first podcaster to agree to interview him. That was World Exclusive 1. Coming soon, we will have World Exclusive 2. We will produce a podcast about black magic, looking at the history of black magic in ISKCON, looking at what black magic is. We will also be talking about things that you can do to protect yourself. Now, some of you might think, well, black magic's not real. Satanic ritual abuse isn't real. But if we have faith in spiritual practices as taught by Srila Prabhupada, as taught by the Acharyas, that they're good for us spiritually, therefore there must also be things that are bad for us spiritually. Spiritual practices that don't bring positive benefit to our lives. And that is where black magic comes in. Now, me being a naive Westerner that joined the Hare Krishna movement almost 20 years ago, never really thought about black magic and its links with the Hare Krishna movement. But we will be producing a podcast very soon here at the Hare Krishna Project and explaining how there are quite strong links with ISKCON. And we're also going to be detailing some of the things that you can do to protect yourself if you're the victim of black magic or you've been a victim of black magic. As you can imagine, this is a massive podcast that we're going to do, and one that the team here at the Hare Krishna Project has put a lot of thought into. So stay tuned. You will see it here first, another world exclusive on black magic and its links with ISKCON on the Hare Krishna Project.